Hi, everybody. This is Craig Shacklet with URComped. I am super pumped today because, as you guys may know, I was in G2E a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of cool products, a lot of actually terrible products, but there was a couple that really caught my eye. And there's one that I got so excited about, I reached out on LinkedIn to Andrew Spalding, who's the VP, and let me make sure I get the title right, VP of Casino Cash Services with Lock Trust. First of all, Andrew, thank you so much for being here.
Craig, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it. So I guess before we get in the interview, why don't we cut away and we'll show your product in action. So let's go to there now.
Hi, man.
Hi there, sir.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Can I get some chips from you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Here's our new handheld device, a mobile ATM.
Wow.
All right, so you're going to swipe the card. You have a chip on there. Swipe it.
Yep.
All right. So go ahead and swipe your card. And enter in how much you'd like. Just tap that area. There you go.
300 should do it.
Yep. Let it. There you go. Sweet. Little transaction from the process. Mark out your receipt.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. It just, as soon as you see it, you know that that is the future of casino gaming. So why don't we, why don't we start by just giving us an overview. And actually, before we get into it, I just want to say this isn't an infomercial. I'm not being paid at all. It was just a product that I love. Now I'm just like, I want to be historically correct when in a few years when this is everywhere. I want people to be like, oh man, Craig from LinkedIn or Craig from URComped saw it. So anyway, Andrew,
Help us launch it and let people know about it. It's
yeah,
awesome.
that's what I'm doing. But anyway, Andrew, give us just an overview of Lock Trust and what you guys do and the product.
Yeah, absolutely. Lock Trust started about 6 years ago, and it's a virtual bank, and it's also a wallet, a closed loop wallet. And what that means, just real simply, is if you took PayPal and Authorize.net, which is a gateway that people put on their websites to take payments, you put those two together, and then you'd get a license from every country and every state, and then you have a global virtual bank where the next part is the currency conversions, but we'll be able to do payments anywhere globally around the world. And then we have a MSP license, which is a money service provider, which makes us different. Like, when you move money from PayPal, it's like it'll be there in a day or two, right? Ours is instantaneous because it's ledger to ledger. We have a fund which allows us to move money through the banking system. We're directly connected to the Fed. So we're literally a bank without walls, just secured by data, by software.
Wow. So from the player's perspective, I can walk up. I'm out of cash. Instead of walking over to the ATM across the casino, where there may be a line where I have to pay $10 transaction fees, I can just sit down. I can pull out my debit card and I can say, "Hey, give me $500 in chips." The dealer pulls out the tablet, swipes it, and then how does it work? It prints out a couple pieces of paper because it's not just cash. It's not an ATM. Explain that part.
Yep. So that's the cashless part. So with the bank, we went out and got licensed to be an ISO for gaming. So if you guys remember in 2015, they cut out online gaming. That's because they weren't getting paid, and then they being the government, right? So with our voucher system that we created, it allows you to go and buy a voucher, and then allows the casino to have a wallet that can cash that voucher in and then just give you chips. So there's no need to have any cash. So you're right. You walk up and then you ask the dealer and just say, "I'd like to get some chips. I don't have any cash. I have them as my card." He hands you the device, and then when you look at it, it says, "Would you like to do debit or a credit?" So it either acts as an ATM or it acts like a marker, or if you're taking out a cash advance at the cage. This technology has been inside the cage for the last 20 years. This isn't rocket science. This is just technology that's becoming mobile because we can run it off of Wi-Fi now. And it's secured through tokenization, PCI compliance, which is, if anybody's ever been through that, it is a real nightmare. But it's to secure the transaction. So there's no way to hack it. There's no data on there that's identifiable to, to steal it. So if somebody were to hack into the device, it's just empty. And when the information goes to our servers, it's tokenized so that it can't be, it's like encrypted, right? So this isn't blockchain. It is more of a banking wireframe that the guys that created it do work for the Department of Justice, right? So I mean, this is a very, very secure, well thought out software.
And are there? So I'm thinking of it. When I saw it, it looks just a lot like you're drawing a marker, right? If somebody has a credit line that's set up, they need more chips. The pit boss comes over and they sign a marker for however much money they want to pull out in chips, and that's what this reminded me of. It makes it so simple. If you run out of cash, you don't need to get up and walk to the ATM to get it. You can do it right from the table. Now, are there limits to it? Because some players don't set up a credit line; they prefer to wire money and set up their bankroll by wiring cash, and that could be $5,000, $10,000, $100,000. What kind of limits are there to this? I mean, does it eliminate the need to wire money because they can just draw as much as they want, or what's the framework there?
That's correct. So we took it into the fact of, a high roller table is going to be different than, your $10 to $200, bet limits, right? So being that we're a fintech company, it's all comes down to the regulators. Do they want to allow credit cards? Do they want to allow debit only? Do they want to have limits on it? How many times it can be used? All of that can be set up based on which device it's at. So, and the other thing I didn't answer before was, yes, it prints out two receipts. So like when you go in and get a Tito ticket, we're working on the connection to the Tito machine so that you can actually just get credits and it just spits out a ticket and you go use that at the table, you go use that in the slot machine, you go to the buffet and use it, right? It's the cashless casino is coming, right? They can see that there's problems with it. So player convenience, the other thing that's really cool about this is with a marker, when you send a wire, you don't get to use your credit card and get those rewards points and stuff, right? So a lot of people are like, well, it's really dangerous to have a credit card. You could put people into trouble. And so, yeah, we'll put limits on it so that, they can only use it, maybe a couple of times a day. But it's really comes down to the gaming boards and the tribal members, the way that they want it. So yeah, as long as you have $25,000 in your bank account and you want to pull it out, and you can pretty much do it right through the device while you're sitting there. So
cool. So the capability, the technology isn't going to be the limiting factor. It's going to be the Nevada Gaming Commission, Louisiana Gaming Commission, or the casino itself that says we're only going to let you draw $1,000, or maybe it does turn into something where the player has to sign off if it's going to be more than 1,000. Like I give authorization to pull $10,000 from the table through this system that you have.
So when you do a voucher, or you sign at the table to get to pull out that cash, they take a thumbprint. They have you sign the marker. We can do that right on the tablet, where you sign the tablet, you put your thumbprint on the tablet, takes a picture. So we have biometrics that are built right into it. And if you're trying to game the system by using a different credit card, well, we know that you used it. So let's say we put a limit of 3 times a day that you can use the system, or twice in an hour or something like that. We don't know what that is, since this is so new. The reason why the ATM isn't right there is because they want to have a cool down period for the player to think about, do I want to go pull out more money and gamble, as opposed to somebody that, we're talking to the National Problem Gaming Council. Richard White is the guy I've been talking to, and he's one of the directors of that council, and they don't even know how to regulate it, how it's going to affect people that have problems with gaming and addiction or whatever. So we want to be on the forefront of this. I'm trying to help write the white paper of how this should be done, because we understand responsibility. That'll help us get in with the regulators, because they see that it's not that I can have a player sit there longer, but they won't lose their seat, right? So if they're gaming or let's say they want to double down, they could actually pull out some cash quick enough to double down. So there's so many different moving parts that we're trying to take into consideration everybody. We're not just trying to make money off of it, but we are a business. This is something that's going to disrupt the industry. There's many people that are trying to get into it, and it's very difficult. This is an old boys club. You got to know people. You kind of. But the one thing is once it starts getting into places and accepted, then they start saying, hey, that's an unfair advantage. I need to have that. And then they'll start going after the regulators themselves, to help with that. So I think that's how the Tito system came out. And I think that's the same process that we'll go through too.
Yes, the Tito thing is a perfect comparison, I think, because, I mean, how many casinos in the U.S. do you think don't have Tito anymore? It's probably about that many, a big goose egg.
We talked to Bally's. The Bally's was the ones that helped install that. They did it in just under 5 years and they started to put it into slot machines that were, like already in use and not going to be taken out for a little while. And then they started putting them in the new ones. So in just under 5 years, they got it in just about 95% of every slot machine out there.
Yeah, because, I mean, when it comes to Tito, for the casino, it's a million times better because it speeds up the velocity of the game. Players can all of a sudden plunk in $100, $500 instead of having to chunk a bunch of quarters in. So
it's quarters, man. I mean, that's just it's a logistical nightmare. All the cash is really a big problem for the casinos, and they're trying to figure it out.
And I think your product is, I mean, it's going to be the same. It's going to speed up the velocity of the game, which the casinos love because it's going to give them potential to increase revenue.
Yep.
And then from the player's perspective,
more hands per hour.
Yep.
We found
more hands per hour, and the player, the cooling off period you said is important. I mean, it's good for the players to have a little walk to think about, do they really want to pull out more money? But at the end of the day, we all want convenience. We all, if it's, I'm there, I know I want to get more money out. I'm in my seat. I'm sober enough to make a coherent decision. I should be able to, and that's actually something that's probably may even be better than the ATM, where a pit boss could be like, hey, you know what, you've had enough. An ATM isn't going to say like, no, you're not, we're not giving you more money.
Yeah, you can make it's kind of like a bartender and having too many drinks or whatever. They are supposed to say, hey, listen, calm down or whatever it is. So yeah, you're 100% right.
Mm-hmm. And if they figure out the cooling off period for a marker, that's, if I draw more money off my credit line, that time frame has got to be about the same as pulling out a debit card and pulling it from the table. So that seems like a good template to use. Is,
Right.
How does pulling off a marker apply to the cooling off period? Let's do the same thing.
Yeah. And the other thing is too is if you've gone to a bank and tried to pull out a large sum of cash recently, like it's difficult.
Yeah.
You try to pull out it used to be like $10,000. I went in to pull out like $6,000 the other day, and I had to answer all these questions. They're wondering what I'm doing with it, and that's what our system does too. Is the anti-money laundering reporting to FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Network. I mean, so all of that compliance and all the stuff in the background. I mean, there's huge problems with cash. They can't track it, and they don't like that.
Yep. Yeah, that is a logistical nightmare for a lot of these casinos. And I guess that's a good question because I know players, they now have to, if they're opening a credit line or wiring a lot of money, they have to answer questions that they didn't used to have to answer. It can be annoying. Where's the source of funds? Where did this come from? Some players don't want to disclose that. Now, it sounds like with this, they're still going to have to disclose it if they're pulling off $10,000 from their debit card with your machine. But maybe, are you saying it's something that could be kind of saved in the system?
No cash, so the Title 31 requirements aren't there.
Oh,
it's
wow.
not cash.
Huh. All right. Well, then that saves players a lot of time. That's cool.
When we were at G2E, we had every single municipality of Canada stop by because they're having, like when people bring in cash, they have to source it and show where that cash came from, right? Otherwise, they won't let them play it. So they're looking at us as a solution for all of the casinos in Canada.
And how much what is that cutoff? I imagine if I sat down with $20, they're not going to ask where it came from. But is that like,
I am, you know what? I'm not sure if they didn't really say what the cutoff was, but if you wanted to bring in like 1,000, I want to say it's like a couple $1,000s. You know,
yeah?
I mean, it's not a whole lot.
Now, as URComp, we obviously deal with casinos. I know just from our perspective, getting licensed in some jurisdictions is just a giant pain, and I can only imagine how much worse it is dealing with money in casinos. So, what's it been like, trying to bring a financial product into the casino industry? What's been some of the the hurdles you've had to jump through?
Well, there's background checks that we do all the time for, there's quarterly background checks with the FBI that she goes through anyway, and the whole, FinCEN and all this stuff. So compliance wise, they're pretty sure like she can walk up to almost any ATM in America and open it, right?
And when
She's
you
got
say
that,
she,
that
I don't think we
but
I don't think we talked about who the she is. You're talking about the founder of the company?
yeah, the founder, Gina LeBlanc, yes. Yep. I run the casino cash expert division of the bank being Lock Trust. So I saw the voucher system that she had set up for. She had created the bank to be the banking background or um, back end for the marijuana industry. So that's we're one license away from being able to bank marijuana, CBD, that kind of stuff using the vouchering system. So like what you saw when you walk into a dispensary, you can swipe your card, buy a voucher, and actually just do a cashless transaction at the dispensary, and then we can move money around for that. So when I saw that, I'm like, we can do this right at the gaming table too, and that's kind of branched off and
Nice.
ideas coming from other stuff, So
Yeah, no, it's all of our vices tend to be cash heavy, I guess, for whatever reason. Um, yeah,
yeah, the banking part of it's very difficult. You have to go through background checks with the Nevada State Gaming Board. There's some of them that you go through, like New Jersey. There's 23 states, I think. If you get approved in New Jersey, there's like 23 of them that just go. If you made it through that, you're good.
yeah. I mean, URComped is not licensed in New Jersey for that reason. It's not that I wouldn't pass a background check. It's that it's so much more than the background check. It is like they want to see your credit card bills from 10 years ago, and it's like that. It would literally like take a month full time of preparation to get through it, and yeah. So we made a conscious decision, like you know what, it's not worth it. We're not planning on sending enough business to New Jersey to make it worth jumping through all those hoops. Not to mention the application fees. Not saying that we wouldn't do it in the future, but yeah, that is. I'm not surprised to hear that. I'm not surprised to hear that getting in New Jersey unlocks 23 more jurisdictions. That's funny.
Yep.
Um,
Something to think about.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah, something to think about.
Now, talk about we kind of touched on it earlier, but there are some issues that casinos have with ATMs that we as players might not think about. But what are some of the things that casinos like? Why they don't like ATMs?
Right. So I've got a great story for that. Let me digress just a little bit. So I was talking to a casino owner. We're going to call him Steve for now, right? And Steve owns a few casinos, and he's saying that the ATM, he's got 17 to 18 million dollars in ATMs across all of his casinos. So one, that money's not sitting in his bank account making and earning interest, which that sucks. Two, he's got to pay people to move the money around, watch the money. So that's another cost. The third one is the only time the casinos nowadays get robbed is by the ATM guys doing a inside job and then they're leaving, like they're out, right? So they'll go in with their jackets, they'll go in and open it up like they're servicing it, pull out the cash and walk out. So that's the only time he gets robbed. And then another thing was when you leave with a bunch of cash, or come to Vegas with a bunch of cash, you're kind of a target. So having the cash, if you don't have cash, you take out a lot of the criminal element. There's no reason to be there. So that was kind of his reasoning behind, it's a convenience for the players, so that they don't have to, lug cash across the country or drive with it or whatever. So he's like, there's I need to have the money so people can play, but it's a pain in my ass. And I imagine all of the casino operators have the same problems.
I imagine so. And you touched on a point. Well, one thing, it is funny. It does feel like there's been more and more robberies at the casino lately. Yeah, I know. Like especially back then, it was definitely like the ATM guys. That's interesting. They show up with their work clothes and they just open up the ATM, take out cash. But yeah, it does seem like randomly there's been a rash of robberies at random casinos where people pull up with the gun, they get away with $5,000, get in a car or a motorcycle and drive off. But
Yep.
you did touch on something that a lot of players, the reason they open credit lines because they're just not comfortable walking around with $10,000 in cash or $20,000 in cash or even $3,000 or $5,000 in cash. It's just uncomfortable having that much.
In your room, and then somebody's going in to clean your room, and I was at a hotel one time. I had $900. It was kind of hidden away. I was there with a bunch of buddies. They came and cleaned the room, and my money is gone. And I went to complain about it, and they're like, "Yeah, you lost it at the table." So yeah, it's just it'd be nice just to pull out the cash that you want. You decide how much you're going to game with, and we're not trying to set the fees where where they hit you with a percentage at the casino sometimes, which they're getting more expensive, but we're trying to do it with like a flat fee, based on kind of what the ATM is and just beating that. Just we have to make some money too, but it's a lot for paying $5 or $6. It's for the peace of mind that you get for not carrying around the $10,000. I would say it's worth it.
And so what happens? Let's say you win. I pull out $500 on the debit card. I play. I end up winning $1,000. So I got $1,500 now. How do they? Can they deposit it into your bank account, or is it like you get $1,000 in cash or chips, or how does that work if you win?
When a property gets set up with us, we give them their own master wallet, right? So we're the bank. We give them their own branded wallet. We give them their own branded Visa cards. So it could say MGM, with a Visa logo on it, and then the player can use that anywhere. So they would go up to the cage, and the cage could say, "Would you like that in cash?" Or we could put that right into your wallet and give you so like kind of with PayPal or whatever, you connect your other bank accounts to it, your other credit cards or whatnot, so that they can move money into it. And it's really quite similar to where you'd go up there, you give them their information, they'd set up the bank account for you or your wallet account, move the money right from their account into yours, hand you a Visa card, and away you go. So that way there's no reason to rob you out in the parking lot because you don't have any cash on you. It's already in your Bank of America account because you can move it to wherever you want.
And I assume that that's optional. So if some people win, they
It's
do want the
optional.
cash.
If you want the cash,
Yeah.
get the cash. If you want to move it into your account, move it into your account.
Very cool.
Yep, that's one of the features that we added and really saw. Like when he was talking about losing his property insurance because people were getting hurt on his property. One guy, there's been deaths, in Vegas and whatnot. They don't publicize them a whole lot, but the insurance company looks at that and says, "Well, this is the third time this year this has happened," and they don't publicize it, like I said, but there's major concerns with the property over that.
Of players being robbed and assaulted because they have cash.
Because they have cash, yep. Because they got hurt, put in the hospital, even died sometimes.
Well, speaking of cash, you guys raised a bunch of money, right? And you're looking to raise more. Tell us about how I guess that kind of dovetails into taking a product to market. Like you had to jump through a lot of hoops. Obviously, there's probably a lot of legal fees and all that, and developing the technology. So what's it been like? So you guys raise money, you raise more money. Where are you at from that perspective?
It starts off with a concept, and Gina went and she worked with the regulators in the beginning because when this medical marijuana started to come up, she saw that there was going to be a big problem with the banking in that. So the first idea was to put together the bank. She comes from a payment space, so she already knew like a lot of the issues in the industry, right? So she went and created a software that really combated all of those issues. And in the beginning, it starts off as an idea, as a concept. Then you have to structure it. You have to talk to regulators. One of the gentlemen from the Federal Reserve sits on our board, and he said this is the only compliant way that we've seen so far for banking medical marijuana, right? So there's some time in there of initial structuring, and then figuring out how much is this company could be worth, and then what it's going to cost to get it there, so that you can put together an investment package, and then you go out and do I call it the FFF round, which is friends, family, and fools, right? So you get people to believe in you, the people that are close to you, go out and raise some capital so you can get the structure together. We started building the software or whatever your idea is, but you start off with, kind of step by step, and then breaking it down into phases of, your A round, your B round, your C round, and trying to figure out how much money am I going to need to get this part of it done. And it's really all comes down to how do I get to revenue with an approved product and mitigate as much risk as possible. So the banking stuff, I mean, there's probably, there's a lot of trade-offs that were done, things that other people wanted so that we could have some of the technology that we needed that without costing a whole lot. So really bootstrapping it, you call it in the beginning, just putting in your own time, putting in your own effort, putting in your own money, getting people to believe in that concept then, and then you go out and start raising capital. So we've raised roughly $5 million over the last 5 years. And now with this product coming to market and wanting to finish off our physical bank, we're doing our final round actually right now. So we are going to raise a couple more $1 million, and we're in the process of doing that. So the marketing, making of these devices and getting them ready to go out. We actually got a couple purchase orders at G2E, which people are like, that doesn't happen. And I'm like, well, we went there thinking we were going to get 10 at least. And if I end up with one, that was kind of my mindset, right? So I don't know if that totally answered your question, because there's so much more that's involved with it, but with a bank, we've licensed in all 50 states. That took time. I actually talked to a gentleman that's trying to do the same thing, and he kind of scoffed at our valuation. But right after that, he told me it was going to cost him $1 million to $1.5 million per state to get licensed. And I was like, that's $75 million it's going to cost you. Yeah. Whereas we've already got it. So why aren't we worth 20? So it's difficult. It's an intrinsic value that you really have to put together and sell. Like it's software. You can't really touch it. You can see the blue device, our prototype. The device that's coming out is beautiful. It's gorgeous, but there had to be money that going into the manufacturing and PCI compliance, and just, my gosh, there's so many different things. And when you come down to it, now we're ready to go to revenue. We've got a couple $100 million worth of processing sitting there waiting for us, and we need a couple more licenses, and we'll be able to be a global bank. And one of the banks that we need is out of the UK, so that we can bank the CBD that we've got sitting there, and online gaming, which is that's the last piece that we need there. So 550 billion, I think, is what online gaming is going to do this year. About 50 of that should be out of the United States. So it's a huge, huge market. I mean, I talked to a good gentleman last night that has 200 online casinos in Malta.
Wow.
200. And they just keep flipping them. He goes, once they get so big, he goes, we start a new one, start over. You know what I mean? So people like that, Canada coming to us, we've got AML problems, but it's all about the story, and then being able to execute. People ask about patents and all that stuff. I see value in the people that can actually execute an idea being way more worthwhile than the patents.
Absolutely.
So when that's my 2 cents.
No, I love it, and I totally agree on that last point. When we were starting up, what patents do you have? I don't know.
I've got an idea, and I know how to work hard, and I know how to, I know how to get things done. You know what I mean? So it's, we're one of my other partners is a hedge fund, and he looks at the person. He doesn't look at the idea. He looks at the person now. Are they full of it, or they can actually execute on what they say that they can?
So when can players look forward to finding your devices in casinos?
We are talking to Mohegans. We're talking to all of the tribes right now that we can. I mean, we just launched at G2E 2 weeks ago. We've got one casino that's going to take a couple of them in Illinois, and another poker room that's taking some of them. So like all the blue prototypes that we had, we got rid of them, and now we're waiting for the new devices to come out, and we're going through compliance with I'm kind of bound by saying which ones we're working with, but there's a new one coming up in Boston. There's another one coming up in California that that the Seminoles have. So there's we're in talks right now. We have to get through their tribal boards, figure out what they want to charge, what kind of regulations do they want to have on it. So we're kind of going through that process right now. The tribal casinos are definitely our low hanging fruit, as well as the ships, the cruise ships and stuff. We at this point right now today, we could make a cruise ship completely cashless. So the licensing, the technology, everything's in place for that. We're talking to a couple of different ones, trying to get in. It's just difficult. These are large companies, they get pitched daily with all kinds of ideas and products. So it's, my job as the marketing professional to get this stuff out in front of people, let them know about it, and then once it gets in, doing our press releases, letting people know about it, and once it becomes adopted, it'll just really start to take off. And the other thing that you guys can do that are watching this is talk to the casino and say, why do I have to do this? Why don't I have this device? You should look at Lock Trust, and that'll help get it forward. Because they're like, hey, people are talking about it at the at the casino.
Well, there you go. That's a call to action to all your.
That is a call to action. Yes. Lock Trust. Where's the casino cash expert? I need the little device so I can just swipe.
Right. Well, again, like I said, we're not getting paid. I just thought it was an amazing product. I see the future. I mean, it's just like, I remember being a kid and being in the arcade. My mom would have a bucket of quarters, and she'd be like, here, just get out. I want to go play. I want to go play the slots. You go shoot zombies or whatever I was doing in the arcade. And obviously, there aren't quarters anymore. It's all Tito. And I when I saw your product, I thought, this is going to be the future. I can absolutely see people pulling out the debit card, getting some more chips. So anyway, best of luck to you, Andrew. Thank you so much for being on here. And we'll look forward to seeing you in some casinos in the coming months, and hopefully you'll keep us abreast of your progress.
Oh, absolutely. I'll let you guys know as we're able to let the press releases out and whatever. I'll let you guys. You'll be my guy on the inside to let the players know what's happening. So we're looking forward to launching it, in a grand scale around the whole globe. But we're going to start here with some of the tribal stuff, make sure that everything's working great, and then we'll see you hopefully everywhere that you see the Tito machine.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, Andrew.
All right. Thanks a lot, Craig. Have a good day.
You too.